We're just talking.
Yep. I've got Sam Chand with me today. He's the author of Leadership Pain, The Classroom for Growth. We're going to be talking about the book and his life, and hopefully you'll gain some leadership insights out of this conversation. So Sam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Sure, sure. I live in Atlanta. I came to America from India in 1973. I was 20 then. This year I'll turn 63. Born and raised in a pastor's home in India. I have, since I've been here, I have, of course, been through college and grad school and so on. I was a youth pastor from 1979 to 80 in Gresham, Oregon, a suburb of Portland. Then I moved from there to Hartford, Michigan, not too far from you, right between Kalamazoo and Benton Harbor. I was pastor of a church there from 1980 to 89. In 1989, I came down to Atlanta, uh, Georgia, to be the president of Beulah Heights University. It's been there since 1918, and I served them for 15 years. And then I resigned from there in 2003 to do what I do now. What I do now is I am a leadership consultant. I write books. I speak at conferences, preach at churches, uh, and coach people, consult with large organizations, churches, and others, and really with the CEO or the senior pastor of the church. So that's a capsule of what I do.
All right, so yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot of leadership experience behind you.
Well, live and learn.
Yep. Um, I know you've just released a book called Leadership Pain, The Classroom for Growth. Do you have any other books that you've released?
Yeah, I've got 13 books. This is my 13th book. So I started writing way back in the 90s. And if people go to my website, samchand.com, they can find all the resources there. They can, of course, uh, download them, audio. They can buy the book. But if they go under resources on samchand.com, all my 13 books are listed there. It's been a great joy.
All right, I'll make sure we link that in the blog post. Um, in leadership pain, you make a case for not running from pain. Rather, you encourage leaders to embrace pain. Why is that?
Because most people run from pain, and I believe pain is a classroom for growth. By that I mean that unless you are willing to embrace the pain, you are going to stymie your growth. So the whole book is written on one simple sentence. And the thesis of the book is you will grow only to the threshold of your pain. So the more pain you can handle, the more you will grow. And the way that came about, Joe, was uh, I started noticing the commonalities among leaders, but even more so the commonality between those that were leading larger organizations, sacred, secular, ministry, marketplace. However, they were doing that. I noted the difference in a smaller organization and a larger organization. Most of the larger organizations, the major difference was that they could handle more pain. So the higher you go, the pain gets louder, it gets more, and that's the price you pay for going higher. So if I'm the CEO of a company versus an hourly employee, my pains are totally different from the others.
And you said as you go up in leadership, your pain threshold should increase. How do you increase that pain threshold?
I don't know if it should increase. You have to increase it on purpose. And the way you do that is to, first of all, recognize the fact that pain is your friend, not an enemy. You have to recognize the fact that, and embrace the fact that the higher you're going to go, the more pain you're going to have. A lot of people have this misconception that one day I'm going to be at this high level when no one's going to tell me what to do, and I'll be independent, totally in control, and then I will have no more pain. And that is not true. what is, for example, if I was an hourly employee, say I'm making $15 an hour, and I'm gonna get my vacation time, and I live in Muskegon, Michigan, and I want to go to New York City for vacation. Well, I can check out on my last day as Friday, and let's say I have a whole week vacation. I don't have to answer phones, don't have to answer emails. I can actually, I'm not thinking about work. Uh, I am actually shut down and I'm gone. If I was the CEO of a company, if I was supervisor of the company, I would have to make sure that my phone stays on, my emails, I'm checking that constantly. I can get a call anytime. I'm thinking about who's showing up for what. Is the work going on? Are things still happening? So when you're the CEO, you're never off.
It's a good point. People don't
Yes.
realize how
Yeah.
on senior leaders have to be.
Yeah, you have to be on all the time. I actually know people who got promoted and after a few months went back to the boss and said, "No, can I go back to my old job? I know I'll make less money. I know that. My title will be lower. I know that. My benefits will be different. I know that. But much rather come in. When I go home, I want to go home. A CEO never goes home with all the checks, every check. Everything is done, 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 done. That never happens. So that pain just continues to grow. So the original question was, how do you grow your pain threshold? And you grow your pain threshold by embracing the pain, recognizing as part of that, and then seeing the lessons that you learn in your pain. Because every step that you're going higher, you had to overcome a pain threshold of some nature, be it financial, be it time, be it relationships or family, location, uh, all the kind of pains that go through there. You also want to be around people who are going to be honest with you and tell you that they're going through a tough time in their life. Because a lot of people live in denial or won't tell you the truth. And so being in touch with that self awareness is a really, really big deal in growing your brain threshold. And then the important thing is living life. If you live life, you just another day, another day, another day, you'll recognize that you need to grow your pain threshold. One of the chapters in my book is called Pain Partners. And pain partners are people who you are in relationship with that can motivate you up the journey because they've been through the pain that you've been through.
Um, with the pain partners, makes a great point. We actually just seen somebody go through a tough time, and something since they didn't have a pain partner to go through, their leadership position was actually stripped from them.
Yes.
How do you find somebody to become a pain partner with you?
I don't know if you find pain partners or pain partners find you. Uh, if people are willing to have honest conversations, there are pain partners everywhere. Uh, if people are willing to not only have honest conversations, but are willing to seek out people that might be able to help them. Sometimes a pain partner may not have an answer, but they can hear at least what you're going through. So you're not carrying the load all by yourself. So sometimes you need a consultant who can guide you through the process. Sometimes you need a coach who can pull it out of you. So there's all kinds of ways to go about finding a pain partner. But if you don't have a pain partner, you will crash and burn.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in the past. It's not pretty.
No, it's not. It's not. And you don't have to have one pain partner. You can have a number. You can call them different names. Some people call them mentors. Some call them coaches. Some call them consultants. Some call them friends. It could be your husband, wife. It could be your parents, teacher. It could be the guy at the Ace Hardware store. It is someone who can embrace you and acknowledge that what you're going through is real, not imagined, and will not give you easy answers, but walk you through it.
Yeah, yeah, we all need somebody like that.
Hmm.
Um, would you say you need different pain partners for different pains that you experience, or can they kind of be intertwined and tackle can the same person tackle different pains?
Well, the higher you go, the more specialists you need. So imagine if you're the CEO of a corporation, you're dealing with, or a senior pastor of a church, you're dealing with people issues, HR issues, compliance issues, and that is where it is important to have some professionals who can walk you through that. Uh, I remember going to my wife. Actually, I was with her going to a doctor for a certain issue, and he started talking about how he had been through the same issue. Well, because he all immediately became a pain partner, and he understood what she was going through. So you're not looking for people necessarily with the answers, but people, and not necessarily for sympathy. You're not looking for someone to feel sorry for you, because that's what you signed up for.
Right. Um, I want to go to a point in your book. You used the movie Gladiator, um,
Maximus.
and Maximus. Yeah. So I don't know if you've taken a look at my blog at all, but I'm a big fan of using movies to
Uh-huh.
dispense leadership lessons.
Yes.
I've used X-Men. Just recently did Mad Max. Um, and movies can really distill leadership lessons. You used Maximus and how he was cut, bleeding, and sore, but he kept on fighting.
Yes.
Do you think there's ever a time a leader should stop fighting?
Well, it depends. That's a choice. Mm, I was president of a university for 15 years, and there was a time in which I said, I want to have a different fight, a different pain, because a certain pain can become chronic. You don't want chronic pain.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't call it stop fighting. I'd say pick a different fight.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we almost moved from one battle to another.
Correct. Because I think you are a leader because you didn't get there because somebody handed to you on a silver platter. You've been blogging now for 3, 4, 5 years, and nobody handed it to you. You've had to create your own niche. You have to create your own market. You got to create your own subscribers. Nothing was given to you, and but each time to go to the next level, there are different pains that you have to embrace, and how you do that uh, will entirely determine the trajectory of where you're going to go.
And that's very true. This interview is a great example of that. It's not my comfort zone, but it's something I'm fighting to get better at, so that I can move to a next level in blogging and leadership influence.
Exactly. And the pain is that every interview is not going to go well. Not every interview is going to have the right content that you thought it was going to have. Some of them can be dull and boring. There'll be times in which technology is not going to cooperate. There are going to be all kinds of things, and you just have to work through that and overcome them. And just because you had one bad interview does not mean the next one's going to be bad. You fight through that. Get back on the horse. Yeah.
Yep, I found that one out.
Yeah, just keep getting back on the horse.
Yep. Another thing, in your book, you mentioned how research shows that being a pastor is a very stressful position.
Yes, sir.
But research has also showed that it's filled with very happy people.
Yes.
Why do you think Christian leaders have this kind of happiness?
Because Christian leaders are not there because they have a job. They're there because they have a calling. It's a calling. They're responding to God's call on their life. So the happiness comes from the fulfillment that it brings to, if you're a youth pastor, to see somebody who was going one way turn their life around. If you're a pastor, you see somebody who came in at a certain level but now is serving in a different capacity. So I think the fulfillment creates the happy feeling, if you want to call it that. But it also is a response to the deep calling of what I'm doing is meaningful. It has substance. It's a legacy. It's going to make a difference in somebody's life. I'm not just making a widget. Nothing wrong with making widgets. We're talking on a widget right now.
Yeah.
Uh, there's nothing wrong with that. But the whole idea of how do I respond to God's call on my life, that's a totally different thing.
I can totally relate to your answer, because for 10, 15 years, my wife and I were leaders in our youth group, and it was stressful.
Yeah.
There were days that we didn't want to keep going, but there were days that were very happy when we'd run into a former youth student on the road, on the street, and they'd recall how our influence changed their lives.
Exactly.
And there, like you said, there's that happiness
Yes.
that comes along with knowing that you're making a difference.
And you cannot buy that happiness.
No, But what I like to do, with the situations like that, kind of create a gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Write down those experiences so that you can remember that, people's lives are being changed, even in the times when you're not seeing it.
Exactly. Exactly. And you can read those journals when you're having a bad day.
Yep. Now, Christian leaders have that kind of happiness and reasons for being happy in stressful positions. For leaders outside of churches, what kind of, do you think they have the same reasons for being happy?
I think so. I think so. Especially people who work in the helping professions, nurses, doctors, chiropractors, people who, counselors, coaches, consultants, those who help other people, teachers, principals, counselors in schools, just, customer service, anybody who's in the helping profession. Because what you're doing is you have somebody who has a need, and you work with them to alleviate the need that brings them into your presence. So you don't have to be a Christian, so as to say. For example, you don't if you don't have to be a Christian to feed the hungry children in Kenya or India, dig wells in Uganda, go to Nepal during the earthquake and aftermath of the earthquake and help people there. You don't have to be a Christian to tutor kids in their schools and help them graduate from school, or have a house for unwed mothers, or women who have been abused and battered, or a home for people coming out of prison. These are humanitarian helping professions that give that great joy and great peace to someone's heart. You will do.
Yeah, so it's more about helping people for the happiness rather than the stress of the job.
Yeah, and the other thing is happiness is based on happiness or happenings or on circumstances. A fulfillment is, even though you don't see the results today, you still know you did the right thing. So when you were a youth pastor, you and your wife were youth pastors of a church, in a church, there were times you did things that you did not see results immediately, but you knew you did the right thing.
Right. Yeah. that has to be one of the hardest things to do too, because you're working hard, you're not seeing results.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
And, the Bible tells us that some are planters, some are reapers.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I think especially pastors and leaders tend to forget that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that many of our senior pastors were formerly youth pastors. I'm one of those.
And when I was growing up, my youth pastor, he actually just became a a senior pastor at another church.
There you go.
So I mean, it's that progression of you start out somewhere and then you continue to grow and move on.
So the good news is that youth pastoring does not have to be into the road.
Right. There can be something after it.
That's
and
right.
Hopefully, those students you raised up might join you along that journey as well.
That's right. And because you're making an impact, when you're doing student ministry, they may not have the maturity to process what you're doing with them and for them at that time. But as they grow up, as you grow up, I grew up, we look at people different, saying, wow, they really cared for me, they really loved me. And the crazy part is they will remember stuff that you did.
That's very true. It's amazing walking around town and running into the students that we've impacted, and honestly, I don't remember everybody.
That's right.
But they'll come up and mention, a game we played or a message we gave, or even going up to them and greeting them as they came into the youth group.
Yeah.
It's and I think it's the little things that make the largest impacts in people's lives.
Absolutely right.
All right, Sam, I know you're a busy guy, and we're on a time limit here, so let's get this wrapped up.
Okay.
I want to ask you one final question. If you could leave a young pastor or church leader with any piece of advice, what would you tell them?
I would tell them get some pain partners.
Yeah.
I would tell them, and let me rephrase all of that. I would tell them get some mentors, get some coaches, get people in your life. People who are not too far ahead of you, but people who are about 3 steps ahead of you. One of the most common questions I get asked is, what's my greatest regret in life? And my greatest regret in life is that early on, I did not know I could get mentors, I could get friends, I could get pain partners. Those are different days as well. I understand that. But I just did not have any friends at that level with whom I could be completely brutally honest. So we end up pretending, and you need some people with whom you can actually be who you are and share what you're going through. So I want to suggest to every pastor, every leader, sacred or sacred, to create those relationships. So in the dark days and the difficult times of life, they will have someone close by. And the last way I want to say the same thing is, you need to know who your 911 is.
The person that you call on in the bad times.
Exactly. You gotta know that before the bad time gets there.
Yeah. Otherwise, you won't know what to do at the time, right?
At that time, you're not thinking clearly. At that time, your emotions are running rampant. At that time, you are thinking about so many other extraneous issues. But when you are in a wreck of life, you need to know who your 911 is. And your 911 needs to know they are your 911. So when you call them 3 o'clock in the morning, they will know that there's a reason for that, and they will not be surprised. They will never wonder why is Joe calling me.
Okay. That's great closing advice, Sam.
I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You're blessing many people. Never underestimate or undermine what God is doing. So keep doing it. You never know who is tapping into the resources you're putting out there.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that.
Well, many blessings.
You too. All right. That was our interview with Sam Chand. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening and watching, and have a great night.